Going to be talking all about how to avoid scams and fraud, and to protect yourself in all sorts of different ways. So, Sam, if you're ready, then please take it away.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Hi, everybody. As Andrew's just said, my name is Samantha Mooney and I'm a community banker. Today, I'm going to be speaking to you all about keeping you safe from fraud and scams. So right now, it's a huge subject in the world that we're living in with a pandemic currently ongoing. We are finding more and more people are getting targeted by different means and ways. So today, I'm going to go over and talk to you about some of the biggest and most key scams that are out there, but also give you hopefully helpful hints and tips on how to spot, but also how to avoid them as well. So as we started there, Andrew kindly done a poll. So I'm going to now talk to you about some of those figures that you actually voted on. So as you'll see there, we've got 4 main points up on our screen just now. The first one is anyone. Anyone can be affected by a scam. It doesn't matter who you are, where you stay, what you do. You can be targeted. 53% of victims that are currently targeted are actually over the age of 55 as well. And in 2019, 1.2 billion was the total loss in the UK to scams. Now, with only 5% of scams currently being reported, it's quite a scary figure. If you think about it, if somebody out there is looking to obtain information or to try and get money, and you've got only 5% of those individuals you're targeting reporting it to anybody, it's a pretty good way to get that information or to get money from innocent people. So how does a scam work and what is the cycle? So time and time again, criminals will target a range of different individuals. All they're needing and all they're looking for is one person to respond to that particular scam. Now, from that response, whether it's an email, a text scam, a survey you could fill out online, personal details then get added to what we call the victims list. Then after, the criminals will target that victim again and again. They'll receive more scams, different approaches, until ultimately they'll either pass one personal information or more personal information, and that victim will ultimately lose money. Sadly, however, it never really ends then. We see that the same people will get targeted time and time again through different ways, and it's a never-ending circle. So the criminals that go about in arranging and exploiting individuals, whether it's stealing their money or gaining their personal information, they use a lot of different befriending and grooming techniques. So when I speak to individuals that have been targeted by scammers, they always tell me that initially these individuals appear extremely legitimate. They're so very, very helpful. But most commonly I get told that they're so friendly, very, very charming, kind, and it seems like they just want to help the people that they're targeting. However, when suddenly, for example, that individual thinks to themselves, hold on, there's maybe something not quite right here. I'm not entirely comfortable. I don't know why they're asking me for this information. That's when we'll see these individuals becoming more persuasive, becoming more and more persistent. So going from maybe one telephone call or one email a week to upping their game and suddenly bombarding the individuals with different calls or emails. We also, time and time again, see threatening and aggressive behaviour. In a lot of cases, these individuals can become very intimidating and almost try to scare who they're targeting into giving them what they actually want. So let's talk about the most common coronavirus scams. Now, this is huge just now. We are in the middle of a pandemic, and unfortunately, we are seeing many different ways and approaches for people to try and get either done out of money or providing and sharing more of their personal information. So coronavirus tax refunds, this is quite common now and we're seeing it a lot. Normally it's by a text message and it appears to be from the HMRC, where there is a link involved within that text message. Now, all it asks you to do is to click on the link to enter some personal information, and lo and behold, you're going to get a tax refund. Now, if you click on that link, 9 times out of 10, it will show you what appears to be the HMRC website. But unfortunately, none of this is legitimate and none of it's true. That link will either take you to a website where you'll be asked to enter personal information, and those details will be then obviously taken from you, or it could even go as far as downloading malware onto the device that you're using, meaning all of your information could then be at risk. Another common one we're seeing just now is the WHO impersonation email, so the World Health Organization. And we're seeing different approaches from this particular email. So we're seeing free test kits, we're seeing cures, we're seeing different ways, different offers on face masks and so on and so forth, where you can get a lot more for your money, or you can get these miracle cures that you just have to subscribe and put money into. Unfortunately, none of these are legitimate and none of these are true. If anything big like that was going to become available, you would find out in other means other than a personalized email or text message. And of course, we were initially at the beginning of the pandemic seeing a lot of fake cured emails. We are still seeing these coming through as well. And this is where if you provide a certain amount of money or you make a one-off payment, you can be put on the top of the list when a cure becomes available, or you can then pay a sum of money and actually receive something through the post, which is going to give you a cure for what is going on right now. Again, sadly, none of this is true, and we are seeing people losing a lot of money because they're buying into these different scams. So up on the screen now, I'm just sharing an example of what you may well have seen yourself or what you may well see in the future. You'll see that there's 3 different scam types that are quite common and they are doing the rounds. You'll see the first one, which is marked urgent. The UK government has issued a payment of £250 to all residents as part of the promise to battle COVID-19. Now, it's a fairly small amount. We saw a lot of people thinking, well, that seems reasonable. They would then click on the link. You'll see that there's the tap here mark, and then we've obviously blurred out the link, but people were then tapping on that link, which was taking them to a website and allowing them to enter personal information, personal details, in some cases, debit card and credit card details as well. And from there, unfortunately, there was money being either taken or their personal details were then being shared further. In the middle one, you can see it's the coronavirus alert. So regarding the new rules that were in force. So this was doing the rounds more so probably about 6 to 8 months ago. However, we are still seeing these on occasion. And you're seeing there that this is warning people that they're being fined because they've either left their home or they've been caught doing something that they shouldn't have. Again, you'll see that there were links to tap on to go ahead and enter. And you'll also see at the bottom of the middle one there, protect the NHS, save lives. So using the tagline that we've seen quite commonly over the past year or so now around coronavirus. So again, quite easy to buy into that and think, okay, I've done something I shouldn't, I better get that resolved and sorted. And then the last one there as well, you'll see there's a massive amount of money that's listed there. So it's stating that the individual's been fined over £3,500 for leaving the property without reason. Now, I don't know about you, but seeing a figure like that, something that's apparently from the government, I know I would certainly go into panic mode. So you can see how that has probably caught a lot of people out and got a lot of individuals worried about what's going on. With coronavirus, people's anxiety levels are already quite high. People have been extremely stressed out and concerned and worried. So throwing texts and scams like this into the mix, it just puts people even more on a higher alert. So you can understand how people easily have been caught out by such scams. So let's talk about impersonation scam examples as well. So we've touched on the coronavirus examples where you're seeing something from the government or you're seeing something apparently from the NHS, but it doesn't just stop there. So impersonation scam examples can also be from your bank or your building society and trusted companies and such as well. So the 2 examples that have popped up on the screen here is one from where I work, which is the Royal Bank. And from all intents and purposes, it looks legitimate. So it says the Royal Bank of Scotland, they've received a request to update a new mobile number. If you don't recognise this, please visit here. And again, it's providing that link. Unfortunately, however, that link isn't correct. It's just going to a website that has been set up for all intents and purposes to actually look legitimate. But when you go in there, again, it's the personal information that you'll be providing and you'll be putting in, which unfortunately allows them to gather more information on you. We've also seen a lot of scam emails. Now, I don't know if many of you have possibly seen the one on the right-hand side. So this scam email has been doing the rounds for some time now, and it's the TV licensing board. Now, a lot of people have unfortunately been caught out by this, as it says something's went wrong. Now, in most instances of this scam that I have seen firsthand, it's normally a small amount of money, something along the lines of your direct debit has bounced, and we just need to gather the payment that is overdue. With it being a smaller amount, a lot of people just see the warning, go into panic mode, and then click on the link and make the payment. It could be for just a monthly payment of about £12, but unfortunately in some cases we've seen some people hit for the full amount of an annual TV license, which, let's face it, it's a lot of money to be paying out when you don't really need to be paying it out. So just running through on the impersonation scam. So what can happen if somebody's reaching out to you or contacting you and it's an impersonation scam? So it'll always seem like a genuine phone call, text or email. When you look at it, if it's a text or email, it'll look like it's from the individual that they're claiming to be. It will look very legitimate. It could come with headed information on it, or the individual that you're speaking to will be extremely friendly, extremely professional, and it's all about getting you on side. However, at some point in that conversation or when you access that link, you're going to be asked to give personal details or to actually make a payment. In a lot of impersonation scams, individuals are told to act immediately as well. There's urgency and pressure put on them to do something right now or something else will happen. And in a lot of cases, especially in cases where we've seen the impersonation scam being apparently by the police or a bank or building society, individuals are put under a lot of pressure by the criminals involved to transfer their money to a safe account. So they'll say that the bank, your local branch, is actually involved in this and they know what they're doing. So we're going to get you to transfer this money to a safe account. The truth of the matter is, no bank or building society nor the police will ever tell you to transfer funds to what they would call a safe account. It's just not something that they would do. So what do the fraudsters actually want? So it's not always just about money. A lot of people do think when it comes to scams or frauds, it's about getting money. Yes, that can be the end goal. However, a lot of other information is valuable to these criminals. So it's information like your date of birth, your phone number or email, your actual home address, and your PIN or passwords to debit cards, online banking, different places you may be signed up and registered to as well. So they do want to get your hands on your money, but they're also going to want to get that information about you as well. So when it comes to they're going to sound even more genuine. So once they've gathered and once they've got that data, so once they know that little bit more about you, because they will do some legwork into finding out who you are and what you like to do, they'll either look to impersonate you or contact you directly and build up that kind of relationship with you to gain even more information about what they want. And they can do obviously the impersonation of you, so we can see identity theft happening, or they can look to either defraud or scam you at some point as well. So the most important part, what can we do to actually protect ourselves? So when it comes to it, please make sure you know who you're really talking to. As I said, no bank or building society would ever contact you out of the blue and ask you for card reader codes, pins, passwords, anything like that. So please never feel like you have to give them away. As I've already said, the bank or police will never ask you to move money to a safe account. And you'll never receive a genuine phone call telling you that your internet is slow. So for example, we've seen there was a scam not that long ago, and it was different Wi-Fi providers that were being targeted, and individuals were receiving phone calls saying, listen, your internet's slow, can you please give me access? Never give remote access to your laptop or home computer to anybody that is calling you out of the blue. No internet provider will ask you to do that. Always verify the caller using an independent verified phone number as well. So such as one that you know from a website or the back of your card. And always contact your bank or building site as soon as possible if you think something's not quite right and you feel that your personal details have been jeopardized. So coming on to investment scams now. So investment scams, again, we are seeing on the rise with more people being at home, more people are being targeted. An investment scams option where you could, a too good to be true deal, where you're asked to invest some sort of money, a small amount or even a large amount, and it's all about what you'll get on the back of that. Now, when these individuals contact you, it's all about how much you can trust them, that it's going to be a great, fantastic deal for you. You can get rich quick and you really don't want to miss out on this. But unfortunately, a lot of these are just too good to be true. So when it comes down to it, you can be asked to invest in many different things. Fine wines and art. We're also seeing gin houses, breweries, quite common for investments now as well. Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, gold and shares, and online trading as well. Oh, sorry, just had a wee bit bother with the slide there. So how will they target you? So as we've already touched on, fraudsters will do homework and they are very, very convincing and clever. So they'll look to obtain personal information and use this to sound genuine. So information can come from many sources as well. So think about your social media platform. So whatever platform it is you may use, think about the information that you've actually got on there. Is it private? Is it secure? Who can actually access it? Also as well, they could hack your information. You could unknowingly just give that information away. There's a lot of online surveys now that a lot of people like to take part in. So think about these things before you either share information or access something and put in personal information. So what do they do then with your data? So they'll contact you in different ways and they'll go about trying to gain your trust. Again, having done their homework, we do find with investment scams, they will try to at times almost tailor something that would get your imagination or make you quite excited. But ultimately, they'll cold call you. You'll receive emails that come out of the blue. They'll offer lots of personal information. Social media adverts could become more tailored. There'll always be that claim that they're trustworthy companies and you can put trust in us to do what we're going to do. Fake reviews is very common. So you'll see some of the websites for these false investment firms have got hundreds of fake reviews about how great and how much they doubled their money and so on and so forth. That with them, you're going to get a better deal. And ultimately, they'll build on the work on that friendship to get your trust and to gain your trust. But remember, I've said it a lot, if it does sound too good to be true, it probably is. So if you are tempted by something, do your own homework and have a look into what it is you're potentially investing into and if it is legitimate. There's lots of different ways that you can access that information. I can happily provide it for you at the end of this as well. So again, when it comes to this particular type of scam, what can we do to protect ourselves? So where did you learn about the investment? Have a wee think about it. If you've suddenly been asked to invest in something that really gets your interest going, why has that came about? How has that information came to you? So think about how you've learned about that. What checks have you done to ensure this is legitimate as well? Have you done basic searches on Google? Have you checked different avenues? Is this what you think it is? Also as well, have you sought independent financial advice about investing? Now that always doesn't have to come at a cost. You can seek free independent financial advice to get a little guidance. Have you done that? And it's always worthwhile having a wee look and doing that. And of course, does the website appear on the FCA page? So having a little look at who you're interacting with, are these people the same that's listed on the FCA page? So match up those websites. Is it the correct one? And of course, is their email address in the same format as one you're engaging with? Quite commonly, people get tricked when they see what appears to be the legitimate email that's coming from. However, on closer inspection, there can be one slight difference, which can lead to us all knowing that it actually came from a fraudster or a criminal activity. So, moving on from our investment scams, I'm now going to have a little chat about romance scams and friendship scams. So these can happen in lots of different ways. Commonly, we see them happening on dating websites. However, with social media platforms, with there being so many options there and available, we do see more romance and befriending scams happening through these means as well. So when it comes to this, we find someone and they think they've found their perfect match. They've been on an online dating site, or they've been using an app, or they've got chatting to somebody online, and things seem perfect, things seem wonderful. They're having a great time chatting to this individual. The person they're speaking to will go out their way to gain their trust, to make them comfortable, to make them more confident and happy. But unfortunately, eventually at some point with this particular scam type, the individual that they're speaking to is going to either ask for money or ask for personal details and information as well. To me personally, the worst thing that happens with romance scams or befriending scams is the people's emotions that are involved just get played with so much. They almost go through the excitement of thinking they've met someone or a new friend to then suddenly having nothing and potentially losing something, either personal information or money at the end of it, which is quite heartbreaking. So how these particular types of scams work. So there's lots of different ways. It's legitimate dating sites, it's legitimate social media platforms that these individuals will use to connect with the victim. And because anybody can have access to these particular sites, it makes it easier for criminals to get onto these platforms and use them for finding and sourcing victims. What they'll ultimately do is they'll research your interest, your relationship status. So again, going back to what you're sharing online is so important because it allows individuals looking to target you to gather and gain more information. Ultimately, they'll end up asking for your personal contact details so they can chat privately. And that's normally where we see a massive increase in the bombardment from these individuals. It also takes away that security of chatting to somebody, whether it's online or via an app or a dating site, because then it's just suddenly one-on-one. And we find a lot of the time when it comes to romance or befriending scams, a lot of the victims have said it was constant. I was made to feel like I was the only person that they had. I was speaking to them every single day, every single hour. And ultimately what these people end up doing is they tell you they love you, but then they'll ask you for money. Now, I haven't personally had an experience in this, but one of my good friends did actually get targeted for a romance scam on a dating app before. It was for a very small sum of £50. However, within 4 weeks, she was then targeted by what appeared to be the same profile, the same person, and the same backstory again. No obviously paying attention to the fact that they had already targeted her. They were just hitting and looking to see what they could do. So ultimately, it's there to get you on side, to make you feel loved, to make you feel like you're their best friend in the world, then ultimately to get something from you, whether that's your personal information or money in a lot of cases as well. So once they get to know you, gain your trust, they will ask for money, as we've already touched on. However, we've seen time and time again them requesting money for different reasons. So in some cases, like my friend there, she was asked just for a train fare up so they could go on a date. However, we see people getting targeted for things like they desperately need flights, or their visa's expired, or they need to get a passport so they can travel to see one of their family members who isn't well. Or in cases they've been getting building work done, this has been a common conversation that you've been having, and then all of a sudden they can't access their account. Could you help them, give them some money to get the workmen paid to finish off this job? They can't access their bank account. It could be for something small, a small amount, £20 even. But in some cases, we see the sums getting bigger because they're locked out their account and they can't access their money. As soon as they've got their money again, they'll pay you back, however. And a lot of these cases as well, they'll ask you to pay it to a third party just to make it easier. But realistically, that third party is just a way for that money to go and for you to never see it again. It's always a case with this particular type of scammer, they'll pay you back as soon as they have the money. But this is never true. So what can we do to actually spot a romance or a befriending scam? So majority of these cases, you will always be contacted first. They'll ask lots of information. So what seems like genuine interest is just a way of trying to get more personal details and information out of you. They'll always have a very attractive profile picture. However, a lot of the time within the messages back and forward, we can see poor grammar and spelling occurring as well. Their story will change over time. Now, this is more subtle, but how you spoke to this individual to the start, further down the line, you can see some changes in what they may be saying or what they may be doing. And a lot of the time, the individuals will refuse to meet, and because they either can't get there or they're too busy or something will always come up or happen. And even when it comes to something like video calling, which we all take for granted in this day and age, there's always excuses. So their camera might not work, their phone isn't great just now, the camera's broken, lots of different things. Bottom line, they want to get your hands on your detail and your money. They'll ask for your contact details so they can then contact you directly. And then that's where we see the bombardment of different messages. So again, let's look at different ways that we can protect ourselves. So romance scams or befriending scams can always be a little bit different because there can be a lot of embarrassment there when it happens as well. However, there's nothing to be embarrassed about. If you are speaking to someone new and you're excited about it, please talk to someone that you trust about what's happening and who you're speaking to or now in a relationship with. Or you can always come into your bank, building society, and speak to us as well, because we'll always listen to what you have to say. Look out for warning signs. So if you are speaking to someone new, how did you first connect with this person? Did they approach you? If so, stay a little bit more vigilant. Take it slow as well. If something seems a bit off, trust your instinct. Your gut instinct counts for so much. So don't let your heart rule your head. Also, please don't spend money on someone that you haven't met in person. The odd £10 or £20 here or there can quickly add up. So no matter how much they tell you they love you or you're their best friend or they want to be with you, please think before you do something like that. And lastly, stop all communication and block all contact with the person if you are worried or suspicious. It's the easiest way to get out of this situation. Once you've done that, get in touch with your bank or the police. So I've now just got a little bit of information up here about different ways you can report different frauds and scams and what big ask I would like you to do. So you can visit the Security Centre on our website. However, depending on who you bank with, all of banks and building societies will have something of the equivalent. So if it's relevant, please check it out. You can get great information, video clips, and different tips and ways you can actually protect yourselves against frauds and scams. Also visit the website Friends Against Scams. So that's www.friendsagainstscams.org.uk. Again, great information, and you yourself can actually become a friend against scam as well. If you do think you've been a victim, always contact your bank in the first instance, especially if you've shared information that you do feel is relevant. If anybody has any questions following today, my details are available. And if you did need to speak to me, please just get in touch. If you do feel you have been scammed or scam approach, please remember to report it as well. So you can do that via Action Fraud by ringing 0300 123 2040. And lastly, the biggest thing for me, talk. You're not alone and you shouldn't feel embarrassed. So regardless of what type of approach you may or may not have had, there's nothing to be embarrassed about. If you're worried or concerned, speak to someone. It's the best thing you can do. The more you talk about it, the more people you tell about it, the more we can build an awareness of what's going on. So just some top tips to protect yourself and others. So be extra careful if you do receive any phone calls, texts, emails from anyone claiming to be your bank or another trusted organisation. So remember, we spoke about at the start there, HMRC, TV licensing board, so on. A genuine bank or organisation will never contact you out of the blue to ask for your PIN, your full password, your card reader codes, passcodes, or for you to move money to another account. Your personal information is yours, so please do not give it away. Never click on a link received in an email or text when it takes you to a website requesting personal information or login details. Always go via the legitimate company website. Don't click on links. Never allow anybody to remotely access your computer. So no third party at all. If they ask, just say no. Scammers will often ask you to download an app or will send you an email with links such as TeamViewer. Please do not accept it. Please do not do it. Watch out for poor grammar or spelling in emails, printed material or letters. That can always be a quick telltale giveaway that there's something not quite right there. And please take 5. So stop and think about what you're being asked to do. If you're concerned, stop and talk to your family or a friend. Just don't do whatever's being asked of you. So that is my talk finished for today. I do hope you found it helpful. I'm now more than happy to answer any questions. So please feel free to ask.
Well, first of all, Samantha, that was really interesting. Thank you so much for the talk. I've definitely learned quite a few things. So yeah, we've got a few questions here. So first of all, what is the most common way that teenagers are being scammed?
So we're seeing lots of different approaches. We do see money muling is quite a common approach, where the individual will be given a great opportunity where I'm going to send you X amount of money. I just need you to hold it or transfer it on for me, and you can keep so much for yourself. Seems innocent. Unfortunately, these are criminals that are ultimately just money laundering through different accounts. We do see teenagers getting targeted for that quite regularly. However, all of the scams that I've spoken about and discussed, I have seen all ages targeted. One of the more common ones we're seeing now across different social media platforms is celebrity impersonation, or different apps for you to download to boost likes and followers. Within these scams, 9 times out of 10, the person that they're speaking to isn't legitimate. With the likes and the follower scams, there can be hidden costs in downloading these apps, and unfortunately you can get hit with quite a large bill at the end of the month when you don't expect it.
Okay, thank you very much for that. So how young, or what's the youngest age of someone that you've seen being scammed before?
So personally, a few years ago, I saw a 12-year-old's account get used for purposes it shouldn't have been getting used to, and that was, as we've just touched on there, the money muling option.
Mm-hmm.
So money
Okay.
was paid in and then transferred out, and it shouldn't have been getting done.
Yeah, as young as 12. Wow, that's pretty upsetting. But
Very.
yeah. So if someone suspects that someone is trying to scam them or that they have been scammed, who should they report it to?
So action frauds are absolutely fantastic. I would encourage everybody to take a note of those details. Your own bank and building society. So we have different ways in which you can report scams, whether it's vishing, smishing, anything like that. There's different means and ways that you can transfer that on. What I can do is I will share information to yourself, Andrew, after, and you can put it out there so people will have a kind of handy access to that information.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Do scammers usually work as individuals or is it large groups?
We see both. So all banks and building societies have got fraud teams in place to ultimately protect and look after you and your money. We see criminals working on their own, targeting individuals for different means and ways. However, we do see organised gangs of criminals working different angles and different scams and frauds as well. So it can be a bit of a mixed bag, unfortunately.
Okay. Okay. how did you get involved in this, in protecting people from scams and working with the bank?
Yeah, so I have been doing this particular, well, a little bit background. I've been with the bank for 15 years now, but I've been doing this role for 2.5 years. So initially, I decided to step into this role because I love the idea of educating people around frauds and scams and raising awareness. And when you start learning a little bit more about it, you end up in a black hole finding out all of this information, and you get a real urgency and need to want to help protect people and to teach people how to spot different things and to look after themselves. And that gives me it's a great passion of mine in order to help. So being able to do this, to go out and educate people, was fantastic. However, when coronavirus hit, we suddenly had to change what we were doing. We were in the middle of a pandemic, so how could we still get this, this message and this information out there? And thanks to Zoom and what have you, we can still do that. We can actually probably reach even more people now as well. So, yeah, that's how I got into it, and I can honestly say I absolutely love doing what I'm doing right now.
Oh, fantastic. Well, it's really worthwhile work. Well, and we're very, very glad that you're able to do this with us. So
Thank
fantastic.
you.
Um, what's the most you've ever seen like one individual be scammed out of?
Gosh, I'm racking my brains now. It's interesting because there's so many different scam approaches for so many different reasons. So you can see, lots of different people get targeted by the same scam for smaller amounts, or you can see a more kind of complex approach for one individual. So, I mean, for me personally, I've seen tens of thousands of pounds, but
Oh my goodness.
to give you an idea of how big it can get, and on a worldwide basis, one individual just in April, now this was reported, I think it was The Guardian, and it was a elderly millionaire in Hong Kong, and they lost £23 million from a scam. And it was a bog standard phone scam. Hi there, getting to know you, what's your situation, building that trust, exploiting that individual, and then literally getting them to empty their bank accounts to what they called safe accounts. So
That's
if you're ever bored in
unbelievable.
the
I mean,
afternoon, Google frauds and scams and you will have quite the day. Some of the information, some of the things you can find out are very scary.
yeah, yeah, that is way more than I was expecting you to
Yeah.
answer. But
So
yeah,
not me personally. I've not been dealing with £23 million, but as I said, that was an individual, and that was just in April, I believe, of this year. So it's just always stuck in my head because it was such a vast sum.
I'm not
Yeah.
surprised.
Mm-hmm.
So if I was to report a scam on Facebook and Twitter, where does that go? Is that enough, or should I be contacting other organizations too?
So yeah, I would always report it to whatever platform you're using, always report it to the administrators of that platform. But you can also, so for example, if there's a tweet that you're concerned about, you can then send it to the administrators. That you can actually send it to the person if you believe they're posing to be that individual. Um, or you can actually take screenshots and you can send it to the different bodies that I've mentioned as well. The more we report different frauds and scams, the more awareness there is, the quicker different places can be at kind of cracking down and stopping them from happening. So if you've got any concerns, get it reported. One as well that seems to be overlooked quite a lot, you've got a phishing, to report phishing in your email. Everybody, I mean, you'll be hard pushed not to find somebody, I think, in this day and age that doesn't receive some sort of scam through their their actual email. So if you do see something, report it as phishing to your email provider. That'll actually help filter out what you're receiving in and stop further things from coming in as well.
Oh, yeah, that's really good to know. And I mean, unless we've got any more in the chat, I think the last one is, how often are the people who try to scam, how often are they caught?
So it's an interesting one. So depending again the type of scam and the approach of scam. So A lot of times we find that the individuals that have been targeted are embarrassed, so they don't report it. So going right back to the start of the talk I've just done, only 5% of people will actually report a fraud or scam. So when you're looking at a figure like that, it's pretty tough for us to, to hear about all these scams, to find them, to fix them, and to get the people that are doing these scams brought to justice, if you will. So that's why we encourage everybody to report something, to not be embarrassed about it. In this day and age, you're hard pushed to find somebody that hasn't been targeted in some way, shape, or form. If they continue to be targeted, then the more they're approached, the less likely they are to lose personal information or, unfortunately, lose money. So reporting it is part of the bigger issue, if you will. So the more you can report it, the better. But I mean, I would say with the cases that I've personally worked, 9 times out of 10, we are getting money back for people. There's lots of different fraud promises across different banks and building societies. But again, it's coming down to reporting it. Once that's reported, once that's in systems, that's when it can get investigated and looked into fully.
That's really reassuring that you're managing to get most people's money back. I mean, I think that would definitely, if that was more widely known, then I'm sure that more people would try and report it. So that's
well, that's why we encourage people never to share information. So there's a fine line. So if you were to share personal information, so not your name, your date of birth, your details, but card reader information, chip and pin details, when you start sharing that information, it becomes more and more difficult to try and get something back. So if people have got an awareness from the get-go and know not to share that information, when an approach happens, they'll have an awareness and they'll report it, or they're less likely to provide any information that could make it more difficult to get things back.
So would you say, I mean, what sort of information, apart from, sort of bank details, would you advise people not to have on like a public, let's say, social media?
So, I mean, I would encourage everybody that's on the call, if they've got time, to review their security on any of their social media platforms and just have the most basic information that you can have there. What a lot of people don't realize is it's the smaller things that you share can be what somebody wants to find. So people will post things about going on holidays, their favorite destinations, their pets, their kids, their car, their address, by just something as simple as taking a picture of their garden just being done. But a lot of information can be within that. So be mindful of what you're posting, or if you want to share what you want online, make sure you're sharing it with people that you actually know, but more so you trust as well.
Fantastic. That's been really, really useful and very, very interesting. I think that's us out of questions. But again, thank you so much for giving this talk. It's been so interesting. And yeah, is there anything else you'd like to say before we finish today?
No, I mean, as I said, I know my details have been shared by you guys. If anybody does have any questions or concerns, please get in touch. I'll more than happily chat you through anything, and just give you an ear to listen sometimes as well helps. So if there's anything at all, don't hesitate to give me a call or get in touch.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much, and thank you for everyone who's been, joining and has been listening in. I hope you've all found it very, very interesting.